Hello, everyone. Today I have with me a very big name from Vancouver real estate market, and his name is Keith Roy. Keith has been with Remax Select. He's in real estate for over 10 years now, and what an accomplishment this guy has gained. So Keith was a member of Professional Conduct Committee at the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver 2014 to 2016, and he has multiple awards under his hat, including Medallion Awards, being more than 10 years in real estate and getting great performance. Am I right, Keith? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's real estate, Paul, so everybody gets a participation ribbon. We just give out fake awards. So if there's a fake award, I've probably won it.
Oh, okay. All right. So anything that I have left, Keith, I would like you to add to that. Then we move on to the important topic, I think, which is of very much relevance to people in Greater Toronto area.
Yeah, so I run a real estate practice here in Vancouver, and one of my side projects is I actually host a podcast called the Vancouver Unreal Estate Show, where we produce an episode every week. I go out and I interview thought leaders, decision makers, policy makers on the real estate file. I have a background in political science. I did an undergrad degree at Guelph. I worked at Queen's Park for a while, actually. I worked on Parliament Hill. So I'm very familiar with the Toronto market, but I also have an interesting perspective on the policy side of the Vancouver market. And I think that's what we want to talk about today is how does government policy affect the price of your house?
Yes. And I would like to just give you a hindsight, because till April, I think it was 20th April or 16th April, everything was going awesome. Like market was overheated. People were putting offer after offer after offer. And we were seeing multiple offers all the time. When the Premier of Ontario announced they're going to create more affordability, and suddenly everything, like someone just switched off the lights. It was just like someone just turned the switch off and everything totally crashed. Like, I don't know, like it was a grinding halt to everything. So now the prices are decreasing. In Peel region that I studied, many houses went from 7%, 5% down before April. So, and we are telling people that this is the right time to make a purchase of second home as an investment property. And I think people are unsure. So Vancouver was a very typical scenario. I think we are going to replicate the same experience as Vancouver. So you guys lived through Vancouver experience. So I would love to have your insight on the before tax and during and after that.
Yeah, let me set the stage for you. Vancouver kind of led the country. Toronto thinks it's busy and Toronto thinks it's expensive, but I've been to Toronto. I've looked at the market. Vancouver is busy and Vancouver is expensive. So we were at a frothy pace. In the provincial government, we had an election this spring. We actually changed governments, but last summer, the government of the day was trying to hold on to what they had left for power, and they were trying to respond to public sentiment around the price of housing. Now, when the government says that we want affordable housing, what the government is really saying is they want your house, the one you own, to be worth less than it is today.
Yes.
So it's this weird game that the government has to play, where they don't want you to lose the equity in your home because that's what produces economic activity, but they do want housing to be seen as at least achievable for the average middle class family. So very late in July of last year, the provincial government announced that they would introduce a 15% property transfer tax on foreign buyers. Now, this included Americans, and we have a lot of people. We have a Hootsuite office here. We have a Microsoft office here. So we have a lot of Americans in town. This included, obviously, people from China. It included people we have a lot of Europeans who buy in Vancouver. It's a world city as Toronto thinks of itself. So when the government decided to do this, they announced it very late in the summer, just at the end of July. And they had about, I think it was 6 days notice before this thing came into effect. More problematic was that if you had a contract in place, the government would not allow that to be grandfathered. So you could have signed a firm deal not knowing that you would have to pay this tax, and then this tax got implemented. Okay. Added to that is that at the end of the summer is actually the busiest day at the land titles office.
All right.
So everybody who was supposed to close in August, September rushed to close all their deals at the end of July. So, and the government hadn't been tracking foreign sales as they did in Ontario, knowing that this was going to be coming. So what happened was in the month of July of last year, something like 12 or 15% of all of our sales were foreign buyers.
Yes. Okay.
And then in August, it was like 1%. And the government claimed victory. But what had happened was everybody who was going to close in August just closed in July. And it very quickly moderated. And if we look historically, the province had, in the Lower Mainland where the tax is applicable, it's not province-wide, it's just in the greater Vancouver area.
Yeah.
What we saw is that it went from about 5% of overall purchases coming from foreign buyers. And that's not just China, because this whole practice, or this whole policy was designed to target China, right? We don't want to prevent Americans from buying houses here. We like Americans. It was a Chinese head tax. That was the whole purpose of it. So what we saw is that it went from 5% in June to 12 or 15% in July, 1% in August, and it seems to have balanced out to about 3% of all purchases are foreign buyers. So it cut out 2%, and it caused chaos in the market. Now, in August of last year, and here's the numbers that you want to share with your Toronto people.
Yes.
The bellwether real estate market in the greater Vancouver area is the west side of Vancouver. This is out by the University of British Columbia, Kitsilano Beach. You've got a lot of waterfront. You've got a lot of luxurious homes. This is where big foreign money was going. This is where you want to be. There's no such thing as too far west in Vancouver, just like there's no such thing as too far south in Toronto. If you get below the 401, you want to be there. If you can get below, Eglinton, you want to be there. Everybody wants to go further in.
Yes.
So in August of last year, the average price of a house in that area was $3.55 million. Okay. In September, it was $2.99 million.
So this was due to the tax coming in.
Government policies like that breed uncertainty. Fear hit the market. Everybody sat on their hands and did nothing. Now, it bounced around a little bit through the fall. By December, it was down to 2.8 million.
Okay.
So we fell from a peak of, almost 3.6 down to 2.8 fairly quickly.
Yes.
The average price of a home in that market last month in August was $3.685 million. It was higher than it was last year.
Wow.
But it looks like a roller coaster.
Yes.
And that's the message you want to take home. When the government,
I would say,
when the government brings in policies like this, it's just injecting fear into the market.
Yes.
If you really look at it, the foreign buyer transactions in the GTA in Vancouver, they're probably very similar.
Yes.
And you're not cutting out a lot of the capital that's coming into the market. What you're doing is you're making people feel better about it. Now, some of that foreign capital at the high end shifts to the low end, and I was looking at the Toronto stats with you before we got on this call. You can see that the condo prices have actually increased throughout the year, and that's because that foreign capital, with the big tax on it, instead of spending $1 million or $1.5 million, it's just now going to go spend $300,000, $400,000, get a condo, maybe $600,000 downtown for a condo in one of the newer towers.
Yes.
So it's shifted the capital. But the price of housing in Canada is quite high, particularly in Toronto and Vancouver, and everybody still wants real estate. Like, the government can't seem to stop the pure demand for real estate. People want to own the asset. And so what's happening is you've got housing prices up here and you've got condo prices here, but the spread is too much. So this has been rocking and rolling in Vancouver for the past year. Houses have come up again, and now we're just starting to feel a bit of a house slowdown in Vancouver. But if I just go to my stat sheet here, there's just been like this steady increase in condo prices. And they're marginally up from last year. Same marketplace. Last year they were $693. This year they're $798. And they've just kind of bounced along and continued to do very well. Vancouver is different from Toronto in that it's land constrained. We've got mountains to the north, ocean to the west, border to the south, mountains to the east. Mm-hmm. And Toronto has the capacity to build more and more. You're building more high-rises. You're building more supply. The key thing I've learned in the Vancouver on Real Estate show in all my interviews and I've done almost 40 episodes now. And
Okay.
to a person, the answer to solving the price of housing is supply. You just need to
Yes.
increase the supply. And Vancouver is really slow to add that supply,
Yes.
uh, particularly because of the geography, whereas Toronto is building more supply. So your prices are tempered a little bit, but that single family house price, you're not building more single family housing anywhere
No.
near Toronto. You're in, Milton, Guelph before I mean, you got to pass the Guelph line before you start seeing farmland again.
Yes.
And it's just not close enough to the city to experience city prices.
The statistic that we were talking about before we went online, because you just referred it, what happened? The semi-detached went down by 6% after this announcement came in, after April, and condo townhouses, they went down by 5%. Condo apartments, they went up by 2% in prices, and detached went down by 7%. This is what we are telling people, that if you want to invest into second home, get in now, because I think they are under this hype that that the government is going to further squeeze the market and it's going to go cheaper. I don't think that's going to go cheaper.
I want people to think of it like an elastic band. And if you pull an elastic band and you pull it, this is what the government's doing. It's pulling it down right now,
Yes.
but it can only hold it for so long. And if they let go or if something happens, it's just going to bounce right back up to where it was and it's
Yes.
going to overcorrect. It's a market.
Yes.
And markets are driven by irrational behaviors. Government policy breeds uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds fear. Fear breeds irrationality. And people are making decisions based on fear right now that if they believe the government policy will work, it works in the short term. But what I can tell you from the Vancouver experience, the government policy effectively did nothing to change the value of housing in the long term, or even in the 1 year, the 12-month term. None of the stats tell me this worked in a
Yeah.
month period.
And the only explanation, the only best way to drop the price is increase the inventory, bring more houses on the market. That's the only way to do it. So Keith, you told me that the market tumbled down from $3.5 million down to 2.8, then again over $3.68 million in the same marketplace before, during, and after the whatever happened. So how was the effect on number of sales during this transition period?
Yeah, so let me just pull up my sales line here. I'm going to, again, use the west side of Vancouver as the bellwether.
Yeah, no problem.
Once August hit in August of last year, we had 60. I'll go August through December, and this is number of sales per month on the west side of Vancouver. 63, 60, 78, 69, 63. So it kind of bounced between a high of 78 and a low of 63 for the latter 6 months of the year.
All right.
In May of this year, the same marketplace, same geography, 185 sales.
Aha. So it's way higher than that one. So
Way higher.
So your price change, your what was the tax, foreign investor tax was implemented in June or July?
July.
In July 26, 2015.
July 2016. It's just we just celebrated the 1 year anniversary.
July 2016, yeah, July 2016. So August to December was 63 to 78 was the range of the sales per month, and now you have touched over 185 sales per month. That's pretty significant jump in the number of sales. So people are absorbing it. Are you still seeing condo sales on rise?
Yeah, let me give you the other example is in July of last year, so the month before the tax, we had 108 sales. In the month after the tax, we had 63 sales.
Okay.
So it basically cut sales in half.
Yes.
Which, from a real estate perspective, when you're out in the field, that's like turning the lights off. It was dead, it was empty. And this past August, it was just rocking and rolling. So it wasn't a function of season. We had better weather this year
Yeah.
which you would think better weather would lead people to be doing less real estate. We had better weather and more sales in August, like a lot more sales in August of this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. This is very helpful discussion, Keith. I cannot impress upon how strongly this reflects the market changes are going to happen. And I guess people are going to be a bit aware of what's going to come forward. And if they want to jump in now, because there are many buyers just sitting on the fence, they don't know what they're going to do. They're so confused. They have 5%, 10% down payment in their pocket, and they think they're the kings at the moment. But it's not going to last for long. That's, we all understand it. But anyway, this is
But
awesome.
I'm going to show you one example here, and I'm going to stand up with my computer and I'm going to walk a little bit.
Okay.
Last summer, in the second week of September, the house across the street came for sale. Let's see if we can get that to focus. So
Mhm.
the one there,
In the middle?
the white one with the little balcony in front.
Yes.
So that's your classic Vancouver special. That's what we call that. It's just a big box. It's about 2,200 square feet. That house actually has 3 suites in it.
Okay.
Last summer, that house came for sale the second week of September. They did an open house. They did a couple more open houses. And remember, this is at the time when the market was tumbling and recovering from the shock of the tax.
Yes.
If I recall, they were listed at they started at like 1,988, went down to 1,798, went down to, I think they finally ended at something like just under $1.6 million. That was their final landing price. They did not sell the house.
Wow.
That house went on the market last week for 1,650.
Okay.
And sold before the open house for 1,680. 12 months, and it was almost it was actually 51 weeks later.
Yes.
From the first time it had come on the market that it sold for more than it was asking last time.
That tells the market how it changes. Like, so this is, the government is just trying to, I think, put a wrong feeling in the mind of homeowners and prospective buyers that they are going to do some very strange thing. They're going to swing this magic wand, and suddenly $1 million house will be $300,000 house here. People have pulled houses out of market because when the neighbor sold house for $800,000, the neighbor doesn't want to sell that for less than that. Regardless, whatever goes out there, he will not agree. It doesn't fit into the mindset, right?
Yeah. Another observation I've noticed, and Toronto's just starting to experience this, as house prices have increased so dramatically over the last decade in Canada,
yes,
people act in accordance with what they think they are. So the house across the street, $1.6 million it sells for. The people who own that house, they're not really millionaires in that they're not wealthy magnates. They don't own multiple companies. He works at the city of Richmond, and I think she might be a teacher or something. They've built that equity over time. But because the value of the house turned to $1.6 million, when you have that kind of equity in a home,
yes,
you make slower and more rational decisions. This isn't your $300,000 house that you're selling. If it goes down 10%, you lose $30,000.
yes.
If this goes down 10%, that's $170,000. That's a lot of dough. So people are much more patient in waiting to sell. There's a lot less have to sell situations when we're playing with a higher price point. So while the government can inject fear into the market and uncertainty in the short term, the long term, it seems to, even again the medium term, that 1 year mark, people can just wait it out. If you've got a $1.8 million home, you can just wait it out for a year.
They're doing it. This is what people are doing it. They don't want to rush. They want to wait. Only people who really have to sell because they bought another house, they have to close the second house. Unless this sells, they cannot do the closing.
Yeah.
Those people are kind of changing prices because otherwise they lose deposit on the other house, and not only that, they get into legal battles or losing their deposit, paying way more if the other house sells for less amount than what they bought for. So those things are causing little ripple effects, and people are kind of generalizing it. Oh, okay, that house dropped by $80,000. Maybe they will also come down. It's not going to happen. It's really very difficult for the home sellers to come to that drop because someone had to sell and they don't have to. People can wait out. And
Yeah.
that's all. That's all.
Price reacts to government response, inventory drops. When supply goes down, prices start skyrocketing again,
Yes.
and that's what creates the V
Yes.
in the housing market.
Absolutely. Keith, I think that's more than helpful for us, and we'll definitely spread this message across. And your name goes there with the article. And so thankful to you for coming on board with me.